If you're looking for a video with a host who knows everything about Pathfinder there is to know, click away right now, because my experience with Pathfinder is second to none. And that is exactly why that when the creators of Pathfinder sent me their new books that have yet to release, by the way, I thought it was the perfect opportunity for me to get to know the system. Hi there fellow roleplayers and game masters, my name is Mr. Tarasque, and if you're new to the channel, this is your go-to YouTube channel for anything tabletop RPG related. Now, I started as a Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition channel, but due to obvious reasons, I started to expand my horizons into different systems, most notably the Cypher system. Now, last week I got an email from Paizo asking me if they could send me their PDFs to their new books that are yet to release, I think November 15, the GM core, the Pathfinder GM core, and the Pathfinder player core, and if I want to take a look at them and maybe even review them on my channel. At first, I was still hesitant about doing so because my experience with Pathfinder is second to none. I hear a lot of people say different stuff about Pathfinder, but I decided to take a look at them anyway. So, two things. First of all, this is not like really a review video or anything. This is more of a first impressions video of a few things that I noticed from Pathfinder that might interest you if you're looking to get into the system yourself. Second, I'm going to approach this from a 5th edition-ish standpoint, maybe 3.5 edition standpoint, because I've been playing Dungeons & Dragons for 20 plus years, so that is my natural way of looking at things. That said, me having zero experience with Pathfinder outside of like one shot a few years ago is the ultimate opportunity for me to look at this from a fresh perspective. So if I say something that isn't correct about a rule that I read wrongly or whatever, just put that in the comments below so I can learn for my next video. Also, if you want to see me cover more Pathfinder on my channel, make sure to hit the subscribe button, the like button, and all of the buttons that you can push. So as you can see, I have the PDF of the new Pathfinder player core, which is the Pathfinder 2nd edition remastered or the Pathfinder 2.1 edition, whatever. I also have the GM core, but I haven't really been looking into that just yet. I've been looking into the player core book, and the first thing I noticed about Pathfinder is its math. There is a lot of math. People have been calling it Mathfinder for a while, and to be perfectly honest, that is one of the reasons I haven't really been looking into Pathfinder that much, because for me, 5th edition already had enough math. Now, a lot of people have always been telling me that due to Pathfinder having more math, it is also at the same time more streamlined and some stuff just makes more sense. And I never knew what that meant because I've never looked into it, but now I kind of know what it means. So it having more math is kind of for me like something that I hate and love about the system. So I'm just going to flip to page 273. I've written it down right here, which talks about armor. So let's say you have armor, right? You are a fighter and you have armor and you're wearing chainmail. So I'm just gonna go over the math involved to calculate your armor class and then recalculate your armor class every level, because it is math within math, basically. So let's say you have a chainmail, which gives you an AC bonus of +4. So it doesn't have like, oh, it is 15 armor class or something like that. It just gives you an AC bonus of +4, and it has a dex cap of +1. Let's say our fighter has +2 in their dex, but they can only calculate +1 since they're wearing chainmail, right? So we now know that our chainmail with our dex gives us +5. So in order to calculate our armor class, we have this box right here. I'm gonna just try to zoom in. Let me just check my OBS real quickly if you can see that well enough. Probably you can. So to calculate your armor class, you have 10 plus your dex modifier up to your cap, so +1, so that's 11, plus your proficiency bonus, plus your armor's item bonus to armor class, which is +4. So we have dex is 1, armor is 4, so that's 5, so it's already 15. Our armor class is 15. But then they say your proficiency bonus. But this is something that I don't know why it's hard for me, but this is basically math within math, because this is something that you need to calculate and recalculate a few times during the game. according to my understanding at least. Because your proficiency bonus is not like in D&D, you get like a +2 and then a +3 for a few levels and a +4 for a few levels, +5 for a few levels. With this game, it's a little bit differently. Like, I'm going to go to page 400 to calculate your proficiency bonus. You can do a few things. Let me see. Let me check my OBS. Yes, it's still correct. You can do a few things. You're either untrained in something. That means you have no proficiency bonus. You can have 4 levels of trained in whatever, in armor, in your skills, in attacks, and whatever. You have trained, expert, master, and legendary. Each one of these give you a different proficiency bonus. Meaning for trained, let's say trained is your basic, you're proficient in something, you're trained, right? That's your level +2. Meaning that if we have, say, a level 3 fighter, and we go back here, we have a level 3 fighter, that this becomes 3 + 2 is 5. Meaning that at level 3, you have an armor class of 20. If I'm correct. So you have 10, +1 from your dex is 11, +5 from your proficiency bonus is 16, +4 from your chainmail is 20. And then there's other bonuses and penalties, which every game has. Basically, right? Maybe your armor is broken or whatever. I don't know. Or a magic item or whatever. So this is the way you calculate that, which means a few things. First of all, if you gain a level, your armor class goes up with 1. That does 2 things. First of all, it's more realistic because you gain more levels. You kind of learn how to use that chainmail. You've been wearing it for a while. You gain level. You become stronger in certain parts of your body. So you're more flexible in your chainmail, and you can fight better with that suit of armor because it starts fitting you. It's like buying a new pair of jeans, right? The first days, it might be like a little bit like, oh, this jeans is like not really fitting perfectly. And then after a week, you're like, oh, this jeans is actually pretty damn good, because you learn how to adjust to the jeans. I'm probably making no sense at all, but you probably know what I mean, right? So that is something that I find really cool. At the same time, I'm a bit scared that the numbers might go up way too high. So the monsters and all of that crap, the math is just higher, and it gets into the 30s and the 40s much quicker than it does for 5th edition. I think this is really cool, and it makes a lot of sense. But on the other hand, people who don't like this kind of math within math might be scared away from the proficiency rule in D&D. Pathfinder. Now let's talk about something that I really, really like about this book, and that is its usability and where stuff is, especially when it comes to classes. Now, if you're wondering about what classes are in here, we have a bard, a cleric, a druid, a fighter, a ranger, a rogue, a witch, and a wizard. The witch is basically a warlock, and then there is no barbarian and no paladin, but I will talk about that in a little bit later, because you can basically build a paladin from this book anyway if you really want to. Let's go to the fighter real quickly and see what I mean with the usability. I hate it when I'm staring at a book, even when I'm on the right page, and still I cannot find what I'm looking for. I am majorly dyslexic, whatever, and it is just really hard to find stuff in blocks of text for me. Now, this is different. They have the key attributes here, they have the hit points here, then I have some talk about what a fighter is, who they are, why they are, and when they are, and then they have the most important stuff at first level they have here in a sidebar. And there's a few takeaways here that I really like, and I've always been missing in 5th edition. First thing is, in the skills section for the fighter, it says that you are trained in your choice, so trained is your level +2, in your choice of acrobatics or athletics. This is something that I really, really, really like, because, yeah, I just like it. I just like the choice between being a more dexterous fighter here or a more strong and sturdy fighter here. I like that choice of acrobatics and athletics. You are trained in a number of additional skills equal to 3 plus your intelligence modifier. I love that. I missed that ever since D&D stepped away from that intelligence modifier thing for skills after a 3rd edition. I always like that every level you're trained in a number of additional skills equals plus 3 plus your intelligence modifier. You can pick just a number of skills. If you boost your intelligence, you are just trained in more skills. And the way I see it, it's like, kind of like boosting your, if you become like level 6 or level 8 or whatever, and you boost your constitution modifier, you get more hit points. Also for the levels before that, because it is something that is constantly calculated. That's a different subject, but it's the same with this. If you boost your intelligence, you get trained in more skills. Something that I really like and also makes sense, because if you're intelligent, you pick stuff up. Also, you're an expert in simple weapons, expert in martial weapons. So expert is 3+ level or something. You're trained in advanced weapons, which is 2+ level. No, that's 3+ level. I don't know. I don't know out of the top of my head, but you know what I mean, right? And you're an expert in unarmed strikes. You're trained in all armor, unarmored defenses. You're an expert in perception. All of that stuff is right here, which I really like. You get 3 saving throws, fortitude, reflex, and will saves. But 2 of them you're an expert in, and 1 of them you're just trained in. Like I said in the earlier part of this video, there's a difference between trained, expert, and then there's even like higher stuff, which is really cool. So the fighter in that sense is something I always look at the fighter when I look at a new RPG, because I'm just somebody who plays fighters. Something that I also really like about this is the feats, the potential feats you get to take are in the class section. So you are looking at the fighter right here, and at level 2, you get a fighter feat and a skill feat, but you get a fighter feat. Those feats are in here, basically, right? So you don't have to look in another part of the book. You just get your lists. You're like, oh, these are all the fighter feats I can take at, oh, these are the ones I can take at 6th level. These are the ones I can take at 1st level, at 4th level, at 12th level, whatever. Oh, I want this one, I want this one. So you get your entire building thing, almost entire building thing from the class alone. Something that I really like. And you get, like, for example, a reactive strike. Something that I really like is a creature within your reach uses a manipulation action or a move action, which is a different story for a more advanced video, makes a ranged attack or leaves a square during move action it's using, which is basically, it triggers, this is something that triggers when a creature does something. You slash out a foe that leaves an opening. Make a melee strike against the triggering creature. If your attack is a critical hit and the trigger was a manipulate action, you disrupt the action. The strike doesn't count toward your multiple attack penalty, and your multiple attack penalty doesn't apply to the strike. There's a lot of rule stuff in here, but basically it is a attack of opportunity that you get. But of course, if it is a critical hit, you interrupt the thing that the other person was trying to do. If they're trying to like tackle you and put you prone or something like that, you can interrupt that with a critical hit, which is a cool thing for a fighter to have. There is no multi-classing in this game. And at the same time, there is. They have a separate system for multi-classing, and they're calling it Archtypes. Character concepts come in infinite possibilities, but you might find that the feats and skills choice from a single class aren't sufficient to fully realize your character. Archetypes allow you to expand the scope of your character's class. I really love this. For example, for every class here, there is a archetype, which is basically a smaller version of a class that you can attach to your main class. So you have the bard, you have the cleric, you have the druid, you have the fighter, you have the ranger, you have the rogue. Let's say we build a level, we build a fighter. We are a fighter, but we want our fighter to be somewhat more of a paladin. We have a fighter who believes in a god or has sworn an oath, and by doing that, they gain some powers. That's the story we have behind it. We can then go to the cleric class and gain some cleric feats, some cleric options, and add that to our fighter. Now I'm saying add, but it is not really adding, because you take these feats on points of the game that when you normally at level 2, 4, 6, 8, 12, I think 16 and 18, you get a feat, a class feat. Normally you take a feat from the fighter if you are a fighter, but you can change that around and take a feat from one of the archetypes. Now you always need to start with the dedication feat. feat, which has a tag, dedication, which gives you the ability to take all of the other ones. Now, once you take this dedication one, the way I see it, you don't need to take all of these. You can take like the dedication one, and then at level 4 you can take a fighter feat, and then at level 6 you can take a cleric, the cleric archetype feat, but then at level 8 again you can take the fighter feat again, and that is the way you can multi-class in this game. I love this system. I really love this system, because it doesn't give that, like, where sometimes with like spellcasting in 5th edition, you're like, oh, you're 2 levels of this and 3 levels of that, and then 2 more levels of this and then 3 more levels of that. This is just like, no, you're a fighter of 6th level. You just have the cleric archetype. So you're, if you want to have some ranger powers as a fighter, you can do that. If you are a fighter, but you want to get a little bit more sneaky about it, you can take the rogue one. You have the witch one. Here we can clearly see a witch who does have a shield and some armor, so they might be like a witch/fighter type. I don't know. There is a multi-class for the wizard, who's also has like a weapon, a martial weapon, and is casting spells. So all of that stuff is in the archetypes section. I am absolutely 100% in love with this. Something that I am not in love with is the skill system. By the way, look at this artwork. This artwork is really cool, but the skill system is just, for me, a little bit too far-fetched, I think. So here's the skill list, right? So this is the way I'm seeing it. I might be completely and totally wrong about what I'm going to say right now and misread it for like 100%. If so, put it in the comments below. I'm sorry for that. But first of all, crafting is now a skill, which is really good. I really like that. That simplifies so many things. You just make a check for crafting. Like repairing something, make a crafting check. Recall knowledge about how a tool works, make a crafting check. Just stuff like that, right? If you want to craft something or earn income by crafting something, make a crafting check. Now they talk about untrained and trained actions. And I could have sworn somewhere in this book, they talk about how you can attempt all of the untrained actions if you're untrained at something. For example, if you are untrained in acrobatics, you can always try to balance on something. You can always try to tumble through something. That's just possible. You can try to balance on a wooden plank in an inn just as a challenge or whatever, or being drunk with a pint of beer, whatever, something like that. Key attribute, dexterity, of course. But you are not allowed, rules as written, it's always at the GM's discretion, but rules as written, you're not allowed to try to maneuver in flight. Which doesn't make sense for me. Because you can, to my logic, you can always try to do something. You will probably absolutely suck at it, and giving people like -10 on something might even make sense, but taking away the ability to at least attempt something doesn't make sense. If I am in a, let's say a friend of mine is flying a Cessna airplane, right? And I'm sitting next to them and for the first time, like, oh cool, you can fly this plane, it's cool, and he gets a heart attack. I'm not trained in being a pilot at all. I don't know how to fly a freaking plane. I know in Flight Simulator, but other than that, I don't know how to fly a plane. But I'm going to attempt to land the plane. I'm going to put the headset on and try to make contact with the tower and be like, hey, my pilot just died or whatever. I need to put this plane on the ground. I'm going to attempt that. I'm going to suck at it, and it's going to be super hard, and chances of me absolutely destroying the landing gear or dying are pretty high, but I'm gonna try it anyway. Right? So that is just something that I don't know. It's just something that doesn't sit well with me. And as a GM, I would never, ever give people nuts the opportunity to try stuff. I would never do that. I would, on the other hand, give them penalties, like negative penalties on something. Because if you are sitting in a airplanes, you're not trained at it, but you have good dexterity, it doesn't mean you can fly a plane. So you shouldn't be able to add that +4 of your dexterity to flying that plane, because you do not know how to fly a plane. So you can say as a game master, like, you don't add your proficiency modifier, but you also don't add your skill key attribute. So it becomes just a flat roll, and you could get lucky and land a freaking Cessna people who haven't been trained in flying Cessnas have landed Cessnas before, so it can happen. Now, that said, in the math of this game, it might make more sense to have this untrained and trained actions, because it might not make sense to make the roll at all, since in Pathfinder, the difficulty of landing a Cessna might be like, I don't know, 30. So not having the trained skill in acrobatics or whatever, or expert or master or legendary skill in acrobatics, it doesn't even make sense to roll a d20, because you can never hit the DC of that skill. So within the math of this system, it might make sense. It's just for me, I'm not coping with the idea of not at least having people try to do something heroic or cool or special, which they aren't good at, but might succeed at. And then the last point I absolutely love about this book, and that really draws me into Pathfinder for some weird reason, and that is the artwork. I absolutely adore some of the art pieces in these books. They remind me of an updated version of the 3.5 books. I have some 3.5 books in my collection still. When I open them up, it's older artwork, of course. It's more black and white stuff, but it's the same vibe. And I really love that. I really love the vibe, the artwork of these books gives, and that is something I know that is not about the system, or it's not about the game or whatever. The artwork is just something pretty to look at. But for me, I still judge some books by their cover and their artwork. That is for me an important reason to pick up a game. It is for the artwork. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be a certain style. It needs to speak to me. And this, man, holy freaking crap, there's cool stuff in here. And that's it. Those were my early impressions for Pathfinder after flipping through the books for a few days. I do not know all of the rules. I do not know all of the little things there are to know about Pathfinder. But from a 5th edition perspective, and after just looking at them for a few days, these are my main takeaways. There are a few things that I really don't like, a few things that I absolutely love, and then there are a few things that I am on the fence about, and I would only know through playing or through reading more into it, know if I love it or hate it. That said, if you want me to cover more Pathfinder, I am absolutely willing to do that on my channel, because I really like digging into new systems. If you want to see me do that, make sure to hit the subscribe button under this video so I can see where people subscribe from, for what. Hit the likes button and hit me up with a comment, and until next video, bye bye.